If you ever find yourself wandering through a crowded tavern in this particular mythological universe, and you spot a solitary figure in the corner with silver hair turnaround.
Oh, absolutely. Run the other way.
Yeah, just walking the door. Because in the lore we are exploring today, a character's physical design is never, just an aesthetic choice by the author.
Right, it's not just for flavor.
Exactly. A silver hair or a glowing green eye isn't just window dressing. It is a blaring neon warning sign that a protagonist's psychology is about to be, well, violently dissected.
It really is a masterclass in visual shorthand.
Yeah.
I mean, we are looking at a narrative landscape where the deepest, most complex philosophical truths of the world are literally written onto the characters' bodies.
Yeah.
You don't get a lengthy monologue explaining the moral stakes, You get a flash of spun silver or a glint of emerald. And if you understand the motif, you know exactly what kind of danger the hero is in.
And deciphering those motifs is our entire mission for this deep dive.
Yes, it is.
We're looking at a massive stack of sources today to untangle this web of recurring physical traits, specifically focusing on silvery hair and glowing green eyes. And to see how these traits operate, we really need to start on the ground floor with a classic setup.
The tavern scene.
Right, the tavern.
Yeah.
So we are at Byron's pub. It's loud, it's vibrant, the air is thick with the smell of aged oak and grease and smoke. And pushing his way through this crowd is a young man named Thomas.
An ambitious young man.
Very. He's hungry to climb the social ladder, completely obsessed with the art of trade and arbitrage. And amidst all this chaos, he spots a solitary bard sitting in a shadowed booth.
And the text is very deliberate in how it introduces this part.
Oh, yeah, it doesn't just say a guy was sitting there.
Exactly. We get the weathered face, the deep mahogany eyes, and then the crucial detail. It says, strands of silver hair, like threads of moonlight. There it is, right? This is the first breadcrumb. Thomas is drawn to him, drops a few silver coins on the table, and the bard repays him with a story called Marcus's Folly.
And it is a brutal story, man.
It really is.
Marcus is this incredibly wealthy man, but he's just consumed by avarice. He catches wind of a rumor about a frozen northern peak that hides a legendary hoard of gemstones.
A classic greedy mistake.
Right. So, blinded by greed, he bankrolls a company of battle-hardened mercenaries and forces them on this suicidal trek up the mountain. And they are losing people to the cold, the treacherous terrain, but Marcus refuses to turn back. He is entirely heedless of the blood being spilled in his name.
He is the embodiment of unchecked ambition here.
Yeah.
And when the surviving remnants of his army finally breach the frozen heart of the mountain, they don't find a pile of unguarded loot.
Of course not.
No, they find an ancient dragon. And the text describes the beast as having, quote, reptilian eyes shining with knowledge beyond mortal ken.
Which is just a terrifying image.
Absolutely. And the battle that follows isn't even a battle, really. It's a massacre.
Yeah.
Marcus's forces are instantly crushed by the dragon's unmatched might.
Just wiped out.
Wiped out. Marcus himself barely escapes with his life, but he is left utterly destitute. The hoard remains untouched, and the story serves as this grim, monumental warning about the fatal cost of unbridled greed.
I read this scene and my mind immediately went to a video game structure.
Oh, interesting. Like how?
Well, when you start a new RPG and you walk into the first town, there's always that one non-player character standing near the inn whose only job is to warn you about the high-level monster zone.
Oh, right. Like the tutorial NPC.
Exactly. A tutorial NPC planted there to explain the rules of consequence, like, don't go to the frozen peak, you will lose everything.
That's a great analogy. The bard is functioning exactly like that archetype. He is establishing the physical and moral physics of this universe.
Yeah.
Actions driven by pure avarice invite catastrophic ruin.
But here is the fascinating part. Thomas listens to this horrific tale of death and financial ruin, and his takeaway is that he wants to go find the treasure himself.
Totally misses the point.
He becomes completely obsessed with the idea of succeeding where Marcus failed. So reading that, I found myself questioning the bard's role. Like, did the bard fail to deliver the warning? Or was this story actually a deliberate psychological test designed to trigger Thomas's greed?
It is unequivocally a test. And the proof lies in that silver hair.
The strands of moonlight.
Right. The bard is part of a recurring lineage of figures in these sources. To truly understand what Thomas is facing in that pub, We have to track where else silver hair manifests in the lore.
Because it shows up everywhere at pivotal moments, right?
It really does.
Like when the character Maria steps into the Whispering Woods, she immediately encounters these floating magical entities called wisps, and the text makes a point to describe how their hair flowed like strands of spun silver.
Yes.
Then, later in a different narrative thread, the heroes are seeking out the Old Man of the Forest, who is this incredibly potent ancient figure, and he's described as having a silvery beard touched with the same patina as weathered birch bark, and hair that catches the sunlight like moonbeams.
We can decode this recurring imagery by looking at the foundational logic of this universe.
Okay, lay it on us.
So the lore explicitly defines what silver symbolizes conceptually. We pull this from the Matrices text in our sources. It represents strength, but a very distinct, reflective kind of resilience that endures by bouncing negative forces back to their source.
Right.
It also embodies sincerity, wisdom, and protection.
Well, okay, let me push back on that interpretation a little bit, specifically regarding the wisps.
Sure.
If silver is the universal shorthand for sincerity and protective wisdom, the wisps are terrible ambassadors for it.
You think?
Yeah. I mean, when Maria meets them, they don't guide her. They mock her. They literally taunt her by saying, none of you people ever visit unless you're after something. That feels highly cynical, not really protective.
I get that. But the apparent contradiction clears up when we look at the final, most demanding symbolic property of silver in this world, which is responsibility.
Responsible.
Yes. Silver is unique because it requires constant maintenance. It tarnishes if it is neglected. The true operational power of silver in this universe is reflection. These silver-haired beings function as human mirrors.
Oh, wow. Oh, that completely recontextualizes the interaction.
Right.
They aren't cynical at all. They are just reflecting what Maria brought into the woods.
That is the core of their function. The wisps are bouncing Maria's own transactional nature back at her. She's only there because she wants to extract something from the forest. And we see the exact same mechanism with the Old Man of the Forest. When the heroes finally reach him and demand the heart's desire herb, he doesn't just hand over the magical item.
He makes them work for it.
Well, he halts their progress and asks, this search for it serves as a path to accomplish what greater deed? Precisely.
He forces them to articulate their underlying motives. He just refuses to let them act blindly.
Exactly. He demands that they examine the why behind their quest. He is the ultimate embodiment of reflective wisdom. And bring this back to the Noisy Tavern, this is exactly what the Bard was doing to Thomas.
Oh, so the bard didn't fail at all.
Not even a little bit.
Yeah.
The Bard didn't fail when Thomas fixated on the treasure. The story of Marcus's folly was a mirror held up to Thomas's soul, and it perfectly reflected Thomas's hidden destructive ambition.
Man. So Thomas's decision to seek the hoard was his own internal flaw making itself known, not a failure of the bard's narrative.
Precisely.
The silver motif forces you to take responsibility for your own inner truth, no matter how ugly or dangerous that truth might be.
Yes.
But, here is the terrifying flip side to that. When you are staring into a mirror, critically examining your own flaws and unspoken desires, you are incredibly vulnerable.
Very true.
And that vulnerability is exactly what the second major visual motif in this lore preys upon. If the silver hair is the mirror, the glowing green eyes are the weapon.
The emerald gaze. Yeah, this is where the lore shifts from internal reflection to external manipulation.
Every single time glowing green eyes appear in these texts, they bring absolute psychological devastation.
They really do.
Let's look at Peter. He's in this moonlit garden and encounters a veiled woman named Elysia. The text dwells on how he is instantly captivated, essentially hypnotized, by the glowing emerald eyes peering from beneath her veil.
It's a classic siren setup.
Yeah, and it's not just an intense stare. It's described as a force that bypasses logic and feeds on his unspoken desires.
And we see an even more destructive manifestation of this with Lady Elysia, who, may be the same entity or an echoing archetype in the lore.
Right.
She is a figure of insatiable ambition, and she uses eyes that sparkled like emeralds to utterly dismantle Sir Kilroy.
That story is wild.
It's so dark. The mechanism of her manipulation is crucial here. She doesn't just charm him. She uses that gaze to identify his own deep-seated ambition and warps it into crippling paranoia.
It just twists it completely.
Yeah, she systematically convinces him that his allies are conspiring against him, isolating him so completely that he ends up buried alive by his own defensive machinations.
By his own traps. It is such an insidious way to destroy someone. And it doesn't even require physical presence, which is the craziest
I
part.
know it doesn't.
Like we have the story of Jack, who is totally isolated in a cottage. He looks at a rocking chair and sees emerald green eyes peering back at him from a reflection.
So creepy.
It's so creepy. This visual is accompanied by a haunting voice that invades his mind, preying directly on his deepest self-doubts and fears. It's a full-on psychological invasion.
And these are all distinct encounters,
Right.
but they point toward a singular, terrifying antagonist in the lore, a being known as Fae, or the Dark Watcher.
Yeah, the big bad.
When we finally reach the ancient ruins, the narrative gives us the ultimate horrifying synthesis of these two visual motifs.
The reveal is incredible.
It's just so cinematic.
The Dark Watcher throws off her hood, and the text describes her face framed by long silvered hair that cascaded down like a river, but it is paired with piercing green eyes burned with a fierce intensity.
It is a profound visual statement about corruption. She possesses the silver hair of the reflective guides, meaning she has access to that deep inner truth. But it is corrupted by the emerald eyes of the manipulator.
Right.
She sees your truth and weaponizes it against you.
You know, the best way I can conceptualize this is to think about the mirror and a laser pointer.
Oh, I like that.
Like the silver-haired guides hold up a mirror, they show you your flaws passively, allowing you the agency to fix them or be destroyed by them. But those emerald eyes are a laser pointer.
Yeah.
They actively target your insecurities, blind you to reality, and meticulously steer you off a cliff.
That's a perfect analogy. And the sources outline the mechanics of this beautifully. During a scene where three crows, Jasper, Felix, and Luna are spying on Faye, they provide a warning about how her magic actually operates.
The crows are great exposition devices.
They are. They clarify that Faye's threat isn't about throwing fireballs or casting simple visual illusions. Jasper explicitly notes that she manipulates perceptions, turning expectations against you, and most devastatingly, she twists virtues into vices.
Twisting virtues into vices, that is terrifying because it means you can't even trust your own goodness.
Exactly. That is the core of her psychological warfare. She takes a character's genuine charity and makes it feel like an inescapable, oppressive obligation.
Wow.
She takes a character's natural humility and morphs it into a paralyzing sense of worthlessness and guilt. The green eyes represent a corruption of reality itself. They take the honest reflection from the silver mirror and warp it until the protagonist willingly destroys themselves.
So we have the silver mirror of honest reflection and the emerald laser of targeted manipulation. The obvious question, really, the ultimate why of this entire deep dive is, why does this universe use these specific physical traits to wage these massive, invisible philosophical battles?
That's a fair question.
Like, why tie such heavy themes to hair and eye color?
Well, the answer lies in the foundational philosophy of this universe, which is rooted in a concept called chronomnesis.
Chrono what?
Chronomnesis, yeah, it's from the New Sophia Doctrine text.
That is a phenomenal term. Chronomnesis. Unpack the mechanics of that for us, because it sounds like a lot more than just, remembering the past.
It is much more dynamic than memory. The lore defines chronomnesis metaphorically as the tapestry that builds the loom upon which it is woven.
The tapestry that builds the loom.
Right. In this philosophical framework, there is no fixed, static version of you waiting to be discovered. A person is simply the cumulative residue of their repeated, intentional choices.
Okay, I follow.
So every time a character makes a deliberate decision, they aren't just expressing their current identity. They're actively altering the structure of the self that will be forced to make the next decision. The act of weaving the tapestry changes the shape of the loom itself.
That's heavy. Every action is quite literally rewiring the architecture of your character.
Yes. The philosophy draws a sharp contrast between two states of being. Living reactively, just taking things as they come and avoiding hard choices, is called wandering.
Wandering.
But living purposefully, making deliberate choices that shape the loom, is called weaving.
And suddenly the function of these physical motifs snaps into focus.
Doesn't it?
The silver-haired guides in the taverns and the forests and the emerald-eyed manipulators in the gardens, they are catalysts. They don't exist just to hand out quests or create obstacles. They step into a character's path to forcefully rip them out of wandering and demand that they start weaving.
They are agents of chronomnesis. When Thomas drops those coins on the table and meets the silver-haired bard, his days of passively wandering as a minor merchant are over.
The mirror has been held up.
Yes. He now has to make a definitive choice about what to do with his own reflected greed. And when Peter faces the hypnotic gaze of the emerald-eyed witch, he can't just casually walk away. He has to actively fight for his own perception of reality or succumb to her manipulation. The encounters force the characters to build their loom.
This framework makes the Gothic tale in our sources, shadow, salt, and betrayal, so much more poignant.
Oh, absolutely.
We have a protagonist who returns to her decaying ancestral home, Gloaming Rock, and she wears a silver locket that she inherited from her father. But the author goes out of their way multiple times to emphasize that the silver is tarnished.
And knowing the matrices of silver, that detail is incredibly loud. Silver requires constant care to maintain its reflective purity, right?
Yeah.
Otherwise, the responsibility matrix fails and it tarnishes.
Right. So the protagonist is entirely bound by this horrific, stagnant debt to her devouring family line. She is trapped in a destructive loop of inherited guilt.
Yeah.
Because that silver is tarnished, it proves she isn't reflecting anything new. She isn't weaving a new future. She's just blindly repeating the past. The tarnished silver is the physical, undeniable proof that her chronomnesis has stalled out. Her loom is broken.
The resolution of her story perfectly illustrates the mechanic of choice, too. The climax happens when she finally refuses the house's narrative. She takes the salt, which is the very element the house uses to bind and suppress her, and repurposes it as her own ward of freedom.
Such a great scene.
It is. And in doing so, she polishes the silver. She forces the mirror to reflect her own definitive choice, severing the inherited debt.
It all circles back to agency. Whether a protagonist is facing a silver-haired bard in a noisy pub, fighting off an emerald-eyed witch in the deep woods, or just staring at a tarnished silver locket around their own neck, the motifs all point to the exact same underlying reality.
Right.
The magic in this world doesn't exist to save anyone, and it doesn't exist to destroy anyone. The magic operates purely as a forcing function, demanding that the characters choose who they are becoming.
The universe is different. It provides the silver mirror of truth or the emerald laser of deception, but the character alone must take the action that weaves their tapestry.
Think about the last time you found yourself locked in a destructive loop, or, the last time you had to confront a really uncomfortable truth about your own motives. In this rich tapestry of lore, aesthetics operate as a brilliant visual shorthand for those exact tensions.
They really do.
Silver hair and green eyes represent the grueling battle between honest, sometimes painful self-reflection and the seductive, weaponized deception of our own reality.
As we step back from these sources, there's one final lingering detail worth considering from the Mysterivm text.
Okay, what is it?
Well, it describes a vision of an unfinished symphony. It's a synesthetic ritual where the boundaries of the world dissolve. And in this ultimate vision of creation, the lights dancing across the sky are not silver and they are not green.
Oh.
They are hues of lavender and ruby.
Lavender and ruby, that is a complete departure from the mirrors and the lasers.
It implies a space beyond the established dichotomy. If silver represents the hard truth of reflection and emerald green represents the active seduction of manipulation, what untested, unwritten parts of your own story are waiting to be colored in by the lavender and ruby of something entirely new?
Wow.
Right? What happens when a person stops merely reacting to the mirrors and the manipulators and finally begins to compose their own original symphony?
The tapestry is still being woven. Thank you for joining us on this deep dive. Next time you're reading a new novel or watching a film or even just wandering through a tavern in a game, look closer at the aesthetic choices. Look for the silver hair. Look for the emerald eyes. Look for the hidden patterns that are quietly testing you. Until next time, keep digging deeper.